remembering the motivation that you had back when you were obsessing over, the goals that you had when you were going to the gym every day. And it kind of probably brings that shit back a bit. Like, cause I know whenever I kick a soccer ball around, I think of when I was making myself do this by myself 4 hours a day, because there was no one that wanted to play soccer with me for 4 hours. Cause my coach at the time, he instilled, and I think I said this on a previous episode, but yeah, he basically put in my head that, like, if I'm not even like 4 hours a day is like entry level to maybe get like kind of up the ladder and play some level of professional. But he was like, there's people in England that are your age that are playing 8 and 10 hours a day. And I'm like, that's fuck. Like, I have to fucking entertain myself kicking a ball around for that long. Like, that's crazy. But at that age, and I think that that's kind of like the initial stepping point where I kind of realized that. And I have a line about this in a song on my upcoming EP that I'd submitted off yesterday for a release. I'm going to put out the release date probably next week or something with the cover sometime. And it'll be in June. But I have a line that's like, basically like, it's hard to, I learned that at a younger age that the work, if you want to, I forget, it was like the work that you put in is whatever you take is like a result of the work you put in. It's a lot to understand that at a younger age. It's not up to fate or something like that. So like, basically anything that you desire, you're capable of achieving. As fucking corny as this sounds, then that's, as redundant as people, as they redundantly said of a phrase that's a really weird way of phrasing that, but that is the pure truth. You could literally do anything if you have the mental discipline and capability of just committing yourself for hours upon hours over a span of time, and not to get distracted, not to get discouraged when it doesn't go your way right off the bat. Then you will progress in any field and receive some sort of success. And basically, I think that really at the end of the day, working towards anything is really all mental. And it's you have to want to do it. You want to improve, and that's just going to be your natural commitment to putting time into it. And
that's a huge thing, is like actually putting goals into place and then working towards them. And that was one of the things that I was talking about earlier, where I used to put notes on my wall, you know what I mean? Because I would, as I was learning, basically the main thing that I learned was how to manipulate my body weight. You know what I mean? Like I just got strong because, like, I remember the first time going to the gym, like working out with Riley, one of our friends. And I actually went with a friend of his and a friend of mine now also too, Mason. And I remember him saying to me, like, start with the bar and you put the 25-pound plates on and work your way up from there. And I was like, I don't want to start with the bar.
I remember starting with the bar when I first started going to the gym too. It makes you just feel like
nothing, right? Yeah. Well,
the first
steps are very unmotivating. But once you get past that, I got past that my first day, because they were like, yeah, start with the bar. I got under the bar and I was like, okay, well, the bar is 45 or 50 pounds. Like, it's heavy, but it's like it's nothing. You know what I mean? In terms of what you're capable of achieving. But I was like, okay, this has some weight to it. But I was like, just throw those 25 pounds on there. And I remember just from that first statement that Mason gave me, when he said, start with the bar and then you'll get to the 25 pounds. And then I started with the bar on my first set. Second set, I said, put 25 pounds on. And I felt what that was like. And I was like, oh, this is what I have to work up to, and I can do it right now. I can kill this. And that feeling in that moment in my first day was all I needed to just drive me into just wanting to destroy this process. And then I created goals. It was like, okay, so I can do 25 pounds. And then I would see Jeff, that was in my class at the time. He was a year and a half older than me. I think he might have failed a grade or something. He was in my grade, but he shouldn't have been. And so he got into the gym when he was like 13, 14 years old. So he was like a plate and 25, you know what I mean, for like a working set. And I was like, okay, I was like, well, he can throw a plate on like it's nothing. I need to be able to throw a plate on. So I went from the 25. I was like, how quick can I get to a plate? And it took me like 2 months. And I was like, I remember running to him after I benched a plate for the first time, like 45 pounds on each side of the bar. And I was like, fuck yeah. And now when I look back at it, like if I was just to go to the gym right now and just like stretch, I would throw a plate on there. You know what I mean? I'm just like it's nothing. But like you have to have a goal in place. And actually the biggest and strongest that I ever was, there was a bench press competition that I'll have to go to my grandmother's and get the trophy. I have the first place in my weight class in this bench press competition. And I knew it was upcoming. And this goes back to that thing I was talking about at the beginning of the episode where I was like, you know, people would socialize at the gym and stuff. And I was never into that because I remember Perry started setting up these bench press competitions or the like weightlifting competitions. And I didn't really participate in it for a while. Then one time I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this because I started working on my bench because I heard about it. So like subconsciously I started like pushing it a little bit. But after I started that, there was another guy that we went to high school with. He was a year younger than us that started off at the gym. He was kind of chubby. And then within like a year, he was like crazy. And I remember I made pretty crazy gains in my first year because I was so dedicated to it. Whereas like I knew people that were going to the gym for a year and didn't really make that kind of progress, not in terms of like what my goals were, you know what I mean, putting actual size on my body. But this kid just like blew my first year out of the water. And I was like, fuck, like this kid was in my weight class benching against me. But I remember every day I would go to the gym and like there'd be like 6 guys around him watching him bench, like they're all talking to him and it's the big, you know, social club around the bench press. And they used to drive me insane. I would go to the gym, put my headphones on, I wouldn't talk to anybody, but in that month I upped my bench press like 45 pounds, which depending on how much you're pushing may or may not be a huge jump, but that was like a huge jump for me because I had a goal. I was like, I need to beat everybody in my weight class. You know what I mean? So I was like, I need to up my bench. And one of the people in that weight class was actually, you know, Jeff that had started the gym like almost 2 years prior to me. So I was like my goals going into that competition was to come in third place. Like I wanted to just place. Third place was like the bottom. And I was like, I just want to place in this competition. And then I ended up upping my bench press like 45 pounds and kind of by luck, people overestimating themselves. Like if you missed a lift, like if you couldn't bench it, you would like basically miss your round. Like if you attempted something but didn't get it, you wouldn't get that. You know what I mean? So through other people overestimating themselves and me kind of pushing myself over the edge, but then underestimating myself, I actually won that bench press competition, first place. So it's like when you have a goal in mind, that was a long story for me to get to the point of like when you actually place a goal and follow that, like nothing can really stop you. You just need to work towards that goal.
And I think you're just generally happier as a person too when you know that you're working towards something and you're genuinely interested in what you're working towards because the thought of getting to the destination is what motivates you in the first place. But along the way, and I think that's the thing is like when you get to where you wanted to, when you achieve what you were working towards, you're like, damn, you know, this feels great and it's definitely worth it. But then, you know, the type of person that always thinks, and I know you probably are too, is like, okay, well, what am I going to do next? Like, and that's the thing. It's just the day-to-day activities. If you love what you're doing and you love what you're doing that is required to be done to get to where you want to go, then the entire process will be enjoyable even throughout the ups and downs, you know, like, and because if you are genuinely committed to the end result, then you kind of know that just any kind of you know, obstacles along the way are just part of the process because nothing is there's no flawless journey when it comes to anything, you know. And yeah, this is I think this has been a great episode, man. I took a photo and put it on my Instagram story when you were in the middle of that conversation, just kind of saying like how I think this is probably we're having some of the best conversations and most genuinely honest and useful conversations that we've had on this podcast to date. And I think that it becomes so much naturally it flows more, like so much more naturally when we're having conversations like this, because this is the type of conversation we would be having if we were just hanging out, and there's not really any kind of guideline to follow. And these are the type of conversations that we would just have on a day-to-day basis that weren't being recorded, that made me think that this would be a good idea to record these conversations and put it out as a podcast in the first place, because I think that there's there's opinions and ways of thinking and explaining our approaches to shit that I think could be useful to some people when we share them. So I'm glad we got some stories.
I think a lot of like, I mean, we were listening to Mark Norman's podcast the other day when we were in your car, and they weren't speaking about anything in particular. It was like, from what I remember of what we listened to, it was like some, one of the two guys telling a story. You know what I mean? Just like, I was telling the story about Silly String earlier. You know what I mean? It's just like stuff that happened. It doesn't necessarily, and I feel like if you're relying too much on topics, the personality isn't there. Like we have, just looking back, let's just see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 12 topics that we had that we didn't even touch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're not going to at this point. You know what I mean?
But
we I'm fine with that.
Better conversation. I mean, that might create clips, but it's like, I hate comparing to it, but like if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, like he's not like he obviously has certain things he wants to touch on, but most of it is just open conversation about whatever that might be. You know what I mean? It's not super guided or anything. You know what I mean? It's just talking. You know what I mean? Shooting the shit, and whoever wants to listen listens. Whoever agrees with your kind of mindset listens. That's what it is.
100%, man. And this is a format that I'm totally comfortable with, doing moving forward. And I think there's a lot of different clips that are included in this episode. I think there's some really useful shit that is that I think has a lot of value if it's shared on its own from this episode. Absolutely. And I think it feels better when it kind of flows naturally like that. So I'm super happy with this episode and everything, and that's pretty much the whole point of the topics and everything, is to create some kind of structure within the show, and also know that these are relevant subjects that we could produce clips from. But at the end of the day, if we're just talking, I mean, chances are we're gonna say something useful. So that makes it clip worthy, and it can produce more content just like that. But yeah, man. And this is the first episode where I didn't drink any beer. So the shout out to the Monster Energy sugar free for fueling me through it. And I feel great.
It started hitting me a while ago, and I kind of forgot that I was drinking beer. I started feeling like strange, and like, what is this? What is this? I was like, why do I feel weird? Am I getting sick? I was like, oh yes, I'm drinking beer.
That's a fact, man. On that note, I think we're at the 2-hour mark now, so I'm comfortable with Absolutely. Wrapping it up. So then next
week we may get our big guest on.
I might get a big guest. Yeah. We do got some guests. It's gonna be exciting when we can start opening it up to guests. Like I said, like in the last few episodes, comment who you would like to see us have on the show. If you have anyone that you think would be just an entertaining person to have a conversation with, let us know. They could be of any profession. I'm down to really open it up, and I'm excited for this journey, man. We're 9 episodes in, which is like almost 20 hours of content, but we're really just getting started. So I'm excited to just watch this project grow gradually over time and see where it goes, and enjoy every minute as we're doing it.
Absolutely. All right.
Swag, bro. Well, on that note, see y'all next week.